There was a moment, not long ago, when you walked into a room and felt the air shift, not because you were loud, not because you demanded attention, but because something about you had changed and they could feel it. You didn't say a word. You didn't need to. But you saw it in their eyes, that flicker of confusion, that hesitation, that sudden silence where there used to be laughter. Because not so long ago, you were the punchline. You were the one they made fun of when you showed up late, when you spoke too softly, when you didn't fit in, when you failed, when you cried, when you tried and fell flat on your face. They laughed at your dreams like they were jokes. You think you're gonna be somebody? You really believe that? You're too quiet, too weird, too much, not enough. And you sat there, smiling, pretending it didn't cut deep, pretending you didn't feel small, pretending you weren't breaking inside. But you were, every time. And the worst part wasn't the jokes. It was how alone you felt. Like you were the only one carrying that weight, like everyone else had it figured out, while you were just faking your way through conversations, through jobs, through relationships, through life. You looked around and saw people moving forward, laughing, connected, loved, and you were stuck. Not because you didn't want more, but because every time you tried to rise, someone pulled you back down with a comment, a smirk, a text that read, "Still trying." You started believing them. You started thinking maybe you were too much. Maybe you were weak. Maybe you would always be the one left behind. But then something happened. Not in a day, not in a moment, but slowly, quietly, in the dark, in the silence, in the hours no one saw. You got tired. Not tired of trying. Tired of pretending. Tired of shrinking. Tired of apologizing for existing. And one night, maybe after a call that left you in tears, or a rejection that felt like the final nail, or just one too many mornings, waking up with that hollow ache in your chest, you looked in the mirror and said, "No more." Not loud, not dramatic, just a whisper. But it was the beginning of everything. Because that whisper, it wasn't just about changing your life. It was about reclaiming your soul. And so you started. Not with a post, not with a flex, not with a word. To anyone, you started in silence. You woke up at 5 a.m. while they were still asleep, still laughing at memes, still chasing temporary highs. You opened a book while they mocked self-help junkies. You hit the gym while they said, "You'll never stick with it." You saved money while they mocked your broke lifestyle. You worked on your craft while they said, "You're not talented enough." And you didn't argue. You didn't defend. You didn't need to. Because for the first time, you weren't doing it for them. You were doing it for the boy who cried in the bathroom stall. For the girl who deleted her photos because she thought she wasn't pretty enough. For the man who apologized for taking up space. For the woman who stayed in a toxic job because she thought she didn't deserve better. You were doing it for you, the one who had been silenced for too long. And every day that passed, you got stronger. Not just in body, but in mind, in spirit, in presence. You stopped checking your phone for validation. You stopped waiting for someone to notice. You stopped begging for love from people who didn't know how to give it. You started speaking less and doing more. You started setting boundaries, not with anger, but with quiet strength. You said no to things that drained you. You walked away from conversations that belittled you. You deleted people who only showed up to take. And the most powerful thing? You didn't feel guilty. Because you finally understood. You weren't being selfish. You were being free. And as the weeks turned into months, something incredible happened. You stopped recognizing yourself. Not because you became someone else, but because you finally became you. The real you. The one who was always there, buried under layers of fear, shame, and other people's opinions. You stood taller. You spoke with calm. You held eye contact. You didn't flinch when someone tried to test you. You didn't need to prove anything, because you already knew your worth. And then came the day you walked into that family gathering, that reunion, that party, that workplace, and you saw them. The ones who laughed, the ones who doubted, the ones who said you'd never make it. And when they saw you, something shifted. Not because you looked different, though. You did. Not because you had money or fame, though maybe you did now. But because of the energy, the peace, the unshakable calm in your eyes. They didn't know what to say. The jokes died in their throat, because the person they used to mock wasn't there anymore. In their place stood someone who had survived the storm, someone who had walked through fire and come out not burned, but forged. And when they finally said, "Damn, you've changed," you didn't brag. You didn't list your wins. You didn't throw their past words in their face. You just smiled, not a smirk, not a victory grin, but a quiet, peaceful smile. Because you knew something they didn't. The greatest revenge isn't success, it's peace. It's waking up every morning and loving your life. It's sleeping at night without anxiety clawing at your chest. It's being able to look in the mirror and say, "I'm proud of you." It's building a life so real, so authentic, so yours. No amount of laughter could ever break it. And that's when it hit you. You didn't change because you wanted to prove them wrong. You changed because you finally decided to stop betraying yourself. You stopped ignoring the voice inside that said, "You're meant for more." You stopped silencing the part of you that ached for growth, for purpose, for depth. You stopped letting their laughter drown out your truth. And in that silence, the early mornings, the lonely nights, the silent workouts, the unread messages, the journal pages filled with pain and hope, you rebuilt yourself, brick by brick, breath by breath, tear by tear. And no one saw it. No one knew until they did. And when they did, they didn't know how to react. Because the script they had for you, the weak one, the quiet one, the failure, no longer fit. You had rewritten your story in silence. And now you were living the sequel they never saw coming. Maybe you didn't have millions. Maybe you weren't famous. Maybe you were still grinding, still working, still healing. But you were free. Free from their opinions. Free from their laughter. Free from the need to be seen. Because you had already seen yourself, and what you saw was unbreakable. And to anyone out there still in that silence, still being laughed at, still feeling small, still wondering if it's worth it, listen closely. The world doesn't reward the loud. It rewards the relentless. It doesn't honor the ones who flex. It honors the ones who show up day after day, even when no one's watching, even when they're laughing, even when you doubt yourself. That's where greatness is born. Not on stages, not in headlines, but in the quiet moments when you choose yourself over comfort, growth over approval, truth over silence. You don't need their permission to rise. You don't need their recognition to be valid. You don't need their apology to move on. All you need is one decision, one moment when you say, "No more." And from that moment on, every action. You take every habit you build, every boundary you set, becomes a brick in the foundation of the life you are meant to live. And one day, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but one day, you'll walk into a room, and someone who once laughed at you will look at you and feel something they can't explain. Not jealousy, not anger, but respect. Because they'll see it, the strength, the peace, the power of a soul that was broken, ignored, mocked, and still chose to rise. And in that moment, you won't need to say a word. Your presence will speak for you. Because the man who fixed himself in silence, he's not hiding anymore. He's standing tall. He's living loud, Not with noise, but with truth. And if you're that person, if you're in the silence right now, building, healing, growing, know this. They may still be laughing, but you're becoming. And when the world finally sees you, it won't be able to look away. So, keep going. Keep showing up. Keep choosing yourself. Let them laugh. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Because the best response isn't words, it's transformation. It's the life you build when no one's watching. It's the peace you carry when they finally notice. And when that day comes, when they see the new you, don't celebrate their shock. Celebrate your silence. Celebrate the nights you didn't give up. Celebrate the courage it took to change while the world was busy making jokes. Because you didn't just survive their laughter, you used it as fuel. And now you're not just different, you're unstoppable. So breathe deep. Stand tall. Keep walking. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning. And this chapter is called I Changed in Silence. And one day, someone else who's hurting, who's hiding, who's being laughed at, will hear your story and say, if he did it, maybe I can too. That's the power of silence. That's the power of change. That's the power of you. So don't stop. Don't look back. Don't let their laughter steal your fire. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more souls who had every reason to quit, but chose to rise instead. And you are one of them. You already are.